Hello, class. This is our first unit, our first cycle. It is transcription. And before we get started, how units work in this class is everybody has the introduction together, all three cohorts. And then each unit has three different components that are 4 days each. And they kind of rotate through the cohorts. So I will explain that as we go. All right, so first cycle transcription, we are what we write. So transcription, I know things, you know things, but how do we tell each other the things that we know? We have to communicate them somehow, and if we can't talk to each other, one of the most common ways for humans to communicate is writing. Whether it's old school, pencil, paper, or wall signs, or whether it's things like texting, posting, blogs, digital things. But the written word, as well as images, is definitely, that literacy is key to our ability to communicate with each other. And writing is one of the things that sets us apart from other animals, although a lot of other animals communicate through making a physical mark, but it's not the same as like writing a word. It's just making a mark that when animals see it, they understand what it means. And for example, a deer, especially a buck, will mark the territory in the woods by rubbing his antlers on the tree, like you see there. He takes his antlers and he rubs it against the tree, and he's doing two things. He's taking the bark off of the tree, and he's also putting his scent on the tree. And then other deers know that this is his territory, and they can also, by the height and everything, kind of judge how tall, how large he is, whether they could potentially fight him to take the territory away, or whether they should just give up and go away. Now, not only deers can read these marks, but predators can also read this deer language. For example, humans, hunters, when you go out, you know what trees are marked by bucks, if they're fresh, if they're super old, where their territory is, and kind of their path throughout that territory. Certain other large predators are thought to be able to figure this out as well. But humans are different. We keep what we write. We keep the marks that we make. All the way back to what you see here with the petroglyphs on cave walls, which was the first type of writing, to when people wrote on scraps of skin and paper. And this writing, which is from the medieval ages, is on vellum, which is paper skin, literally. It's skin that is scraped and stretched so that it's super thin and transparent, and you have to get it wet to write on it for the writing to stick. And then there's books like this one. This is an handmade book, handmade papers, leather kind of cover to it, to what you think about like textbooks and things of that nature. So in this cycle, we're going to explore how humans record experiences in their different ways, how we exchange information between people and cultures, and the technical process of bookmaking. So there are three components, and the components are what I was talking about when I say that you work through cycles. So the studio component first deals with the materials, the techniques, and the process of creating a book. You're going to be making your own hardcover spiral-bound blank book. So we're going to focus on adapting and working on the covers, and then adding in the pages and binding it. And then you'll have this blank book as a product. I'm not going to tell you what to do with that book, okay? You can use it for class if you want to. You could use it as a sketchbook or a journal or a diary or for another class, or you could give it away. But you're not writing the book, you're just making the book. Okay? And that's what you're going to be doing in class. If you are working only online, I will deliver the materials that you need, and I'll have video tutorials, and you'll have to kind of follow along with that. The context, this is online things, and that will explore the history and purpose of writing and books. And then you're going to take, not a deep dive, a medium shallow dive, into one of the great books in history, artistically speaking. So for this, I've selected books that are interesting and unusual and usually pretty much one of a kind, the way they're constructed. And I think you'll enjoy them. So when you're working on the context component, you will have 2 days of your cohort that deal with the history and purpose of writing. And then when you circle back to it, your other 2 days will be dealing with exploring the book. And then the content component, you're going to discover why books, why do we make them, how do we use them to exchange information, what happens when text is transcribed and translated, and what your books say about you. And over here is a picture of a bibliophile's place. It actually kind of looks like Old Man Bookstore in downtown Wilmington, which I think is still there. I haven't been down there in a really long time. I have a lot of books. I don't have nearly as many as I used to before I had to move. But trivial fact, when Trask was built, I owned more books in my house than we had in the library here. So, that's a lot of books. I don't have nearly that much now. Okay. So, how you're going to be assessed for this unit. For the formative grades, your weekly grades total 100 point. So that's both your online grades for your small daily assignments and your studio progress grades. And then you're going to have your 2 summative grades. Your studio summative grade is on your finished book. Your book must be finished in order to be graded as a summative grade, because I'm grading parts as we move along, but that's not the whole thing together. So for your finished book, you must have both the exterior or outside and the interior covers designed using the required technique, and we're going to be using a process with many different kinds of paper. Your book must be bound correctly and contain enough pages. You can't make a book with like 3 pages. And with that, you're also going to, on the day, assessment day, you'll have a written reflection on what you've learned. These for this class are short and less formal than they are in the visual art class. And everything has to be turned in by Wednesday, February 3rd. Wednesday, February 3rd, your studio work is due, your reflections due, and then after you turn those in, you'll also listen to the introduction to our next project on that day. Over on the right, you see an example of one of the books that was made, several years ago now for this project. Kind of the same format, hardcover, outside. It's bound with a spiral. The spiral isn't in quite right. You can see it kind of standing up there. And then the pattern paper that is cut and collaged in order to make the cover. And then it also has some decorative, objects and things cut out of magazines. We have a lot of different types and patterns of paper that you'll be able to select from. for your book. If you are working online, I will have to select it for you because you're not here to pick it out, but I will try to give you a wide variety. So, working online, if you are not already one of the people that the office told me is just working online, if you normally come hybrid and for some reason you can't come during your studio time, let me know so I can get the kits to you. If you're already online all the time, all you have to do is let me know if you want to pick up your kit at the logo area here at school, or if you want me to deliver it, and I will deliver it to your mailbox if your mailbox is large enough to hold it, which it should hold all the kits. Okay? So I will notify you when I'm delivering kits. It'll be before your cohort is scheduled for face-to-face studio. So the face-to-face studio is starting with the A cohort, which are last names A through G. So if you are not going to be here this week for Thursday and Friday, the face-to-face studio, please let me know, and I will try to get your materials to you at some point Wednesday. And again, I will include a range of materials in the kits, and you will also have glue and whatever else you need, but you're not going to have the same opportunity if you're working just online to select the materials. However, you can supply your own, but you're not going to have the access to some of the specialized tools. And that's because I don't have like a huge amount of these tools, and they're very expensive, and they have to be used here in the classroom. But you're not going to be penalized for not having access to those advanced tools, because that's not fair. There's other ways to do the techniques that I will show you if you don't have the tools that I have. And of course, those of you that are working in the classroom, you will be cleaning the tools when you use it. So after you use a tool, you have to wipe it back down. All right? So our timeline, and this is so you know, it seems a little confusing at first glance. It's more for my organization than yours. But basically, your first studio is Thursday and Friday of this week. And then next week, because the Martin Luther King holiday is on Monday, you're not going to have that Wednesday for a work day. It's just going to go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with instruction. B, you're in here for studio on Tuesday, but you're going to, if you want to keep working, you have to take it home and you're going to have to bring it back. Okay? And work at home on Wednesday. And then C has their first studio in here Thursday. Now, if you're one of the students that comes every day to school, you may not be in the same cohort that's doing the studio part. So, like, for example, if you're in cohort B and you're here Thursday and Friday, A will be working on the studio and you'll be doing the online work. All of the studio days are highlighted in bold with their cohort. And then the studio and reflection is due Wednesday the 3rd. You have tomorrow as an online work day to get caught up on any missing things from the introduction to class the first week. And then you're going to have also this Wednesday as a work day. So to get started, you do have a starting assignment. And I'm going to demonstrate this after I read the assignment to you. So you need to have your Chromebook for this, and you're going to open up a Word doc. And on that doc, I want you to write about a paragraph about your relationship to books. So think about your favorite books, your least favorite books. Do you like books? Do you love books? Do you hate books? Do you prefer to read physical books, or do you like to read with a Kindle or online? When and where do you read? Is it just at school, or is it, in your room? Do you read for fun, or just because it's assigned, or what? And think about, I said books, but also think about other things you might like to read. There might be a blog that you follow, or, even Twitter, because Twitter's text-based. It's just chats. And if you put it all together enough, it becomes a book. All right. So anything you would like to say about books and reading, but you've got to write a paragraph. Okay. And you have to do that first. So after that is done, what you're going to do is multiple translations of that paragraph. So I have Google Translate linked, and you're going to copy and paste your paragraph into the left side, and then choose a language on the right side. There's a drop-down menu. I'm going to demonstrate this in a minute. And translate it. Keep track of what language you choose, because you're going to copy the translation and paste it into the left side, and then translate the translation into a different language. And you're doing this until you've gone through 10 languages. And then the last time you copy it, you paste it in, and you're going to translate it back to English. Copy what you end up with there. Sometimes, depending upon the languages you pick, it's very close to what you wrote originally. Sometimes it's way off, but you translate it back into English for the last time, and then you copy and paste it below your original paragraph in your Google Doc. Keep a list of all the languages you used, including that just put it underneath your translations in your document. Okay, so what you're turning in today is, in one Google document, your answer to my question, and then the last translation, when you translate it back into English, paste it underneath that, and then your list of languages. Do not turn in the paragraph with all the different translations, okay? Watch what I do. I'm going to, instead of writing a paragraph in a document, I'm just going to use this one because that's time expedient. So I'm highlighting it, Control-C to copy, and I will create a document. And you do this, of course, under Add and then Doc in the assignment. So there's my original paragraph, okay? Now I'm going to Google Translate. I'm going to paste that paragraph in there. And I'm going to translate. See, if you click on this button, you have all these languages. I'm going to translate it into Armenian. Okay? And then I'm going to highlight that and copy it. Then I'm going to go over here and paste that in here. And this time I'm going to translate it into Samoan. And I'm going to highlight it. And I'd be keeping track of these. Paste it into here. Whoops. You got to undo the old. Paste it into there. And this time I'm going to translate from Samoan into Japanese. Whoops. Show more. I'm going to highlight it. Copy it. Go over here. Get rid of this. I have Japanese. And I'm going to translate this into Russian, which I really wish I knew how to read and speak, because I really like Russian language. I like the way it sounds. Okay, copying this, Go over here, getting rid of the Japanese. Oops. Pasting it. And then I'm going to go ahead and just translate it back into English because it's not 10 times. And if you look on here, see the little things that will show you which languages you've used so far. So I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, let's do another one instead. Shauna, I don't know what that is. Wow, it's gotten like really long. And now I'm going to translate it back into English. And you can see what kind of happened here is that parts of it look like it's translating, and then you'll get a symbol, and that's something, a symbolic word that could not be translated into English. And then sometimes you have got a whole phrase because of the way things are phrased. And then we go down here, and just once in a while there's an English word, and then there's a whole English sentence that isn't, something that I did copy and paste the code into the next page or section. And moving on down. So some things were not able to be translated. Okay? But the reason that I'm having you do this is so that you can see kind of what happens to language when you filter it over and over again through different translations, and how things that are not as easy as it looks. All right. So that's what you do. Let me know if you have questions or need help. And tomorrow we are going to be starting. A is starting on Studio. Cohort B will be working with the history of writing. And Cohort C will be working with the idea of what is writing for. All right then? That's Thursday. Tomorrow's work day. All right. That's all.